everyone, and welcome back. Tonight, I want to talk about the story of Baldur and his death. Yes, the reason it came up was because it is the holiday season. We've just passed the winter solstice. Everyone's talking about Christmas trees and holly and mistletoe, and so therefore, Baldur. Now, it's going to be a little different though. I'm not, instead of just talking about the story, I want to talk about some of my opinions, my personal theories, ideas of lessons we can take away from that story. Right. Again, this is going to be, there's UPG involved, but remember, when I say UPG, what I mean is actual UPG. It is the personal beliefs and theories that fill in the gaps based on what is stated in the lore. Okay, so we're reading it and filling in the gaps, and there are little discrepancies here and there between this version or that version, this translation, that translation. Prose said this, poetic said this, but that's where we get into the studying part, and then kind of take those bits and pieces and form our UPG. So this is going to be kind of my personal UPG and interpretation. Not interpretation, but what I think are possible lessons we can learn from the story. So, without further ado, for those who don't know, we'll do a little summary. So, Baldur was having these terrible dreams. It was keeping him up at night. He didn't want to sleep because of these terrible dreams that he was going to die. So, Odin gets on his horse and he rides out to awaken a dead vulva and ask her, what these dreams are about, what's going on. And she tells him he's going to be killed. And she tells him who is going to do it. Holner or Hoth, whichever version you're reading. And that he's going to kill him. Baldur's going to die. So his mother goes off. Friend goes off. They go and ask every single creature, every plant, every stone, every living thing, everything in the world. And they ask, please do not hurt Baldur. And they all swear oath that they will not harm him. But there was the mistletoe high up in the tree. Now, depending on which version you are reading, either she overlooked it because it was way up in the trees, or she thought it was so small and insignificant that it couldn't possibly hurt him, or she just figured since it's way up there, it's not going to come down here and hurt him. Whichever version it is, she did not ask the mistletoe. Okay? Now, again, depending on version, some versions say Loki went and found out that the mistletoe had not swore the oath and therefore could hurt him and kill him. Other versions don't even mention how it came about, other than we do know eventually what happens is, since everything around has sworn an oath to never harm him, they all start having this little game, competition sort of, where they're throwing things at him. Weapons, sticks, stones, you name it. They're just throwing things at him because he cannot die now. And they've made a game of it. But Holner, or Hoff, who is blind, has not been playing the game. And whether it is someone else or Loki or intentional or not, again, depending on the version, what ends up happening, Holner does finally participate, being blind, and is given the mistletoe as what he can throw at Baldur. And he throws it, and it's stabs into him, and Baldur dies. So everyone's upset. Baldur's now dead. What are we going to do? Well, they go off into hell. And they go and ask Hela if they could just have him back. What they can do. Trying to bargain with her. And they're told that he can come back and be alive again and not go to her hall if every living creature and person on the planet cries and mourns for him. So they start their journey, and they're going and asking every single one that they can, and they get everyone but one has done it. So they go to the final person, who is an old hag in a cave, refuses to cry for him. And she says it doesn't bother her whether he's dead or alive. It doesn't affect her. So she does not cry for him. And so he gets stuck there. And he stays in Helheim, and he does not get to come out until after Ragnarok, when we know he takes over and starts ruling with the other two after Ragnarok when we do the restart. He takes his father's place as ruler. So, that is the story. Now, no things we can go through it. Again, I don't want to deal with the did Loki not, because, again, different versions say he did. There's some who said he did, and like in Snorri, translation of the Prose Edda, there's earlier versions before that did not even mention Loki at all. So we're going to skip on through that. Regardless of how and why he was given the mistletoe to throw at Baldur, there's still lessons from it, because it had to happen. Baldur had to die. The prophecy had already been told ages before that at Ragnarok, every one of the gods is going to die. Everyone who is there, basically, if you are above the ground, if you are above Helheim, when Ragnarok happens, you are going to die. And only those select few who were hidden away are going to survive, and that includes Baldur. Baldur taking over after he leaves Helheim after Ragnarok. Had he not been killed and sent to Helheim, then he would die in Ragnarok and not be able to do the restart. So, this is where we get the part of where we get the whole mistletoe and the fertility and the connection between that story and the solstice and all that, because we are looking at winter, everything dies and then comes back in the spring. So this is literally the story of the god who dies and then comes back. And there are many of those tales throughout all ancient cultures and all of paganism, pretty much. So it had to happen. Baldur had to die. Not only that, there are also other lessons in personality, personal choices, I guess you could say. Because if you think about it, what were they doing that got him killed? It wasn't like the mistletoe just fell from the tree and accidentally hurt him. It was not like he happened to find the mistletoe and hurt himself. They were having a little game of throwing things at him because they knew he can't die. Despite what the prophecy and the dreams had said, they're like, oh, we've beat fate. we can play this game now. And they were making a game of tempting fate. So in a way, it's kind of a lesson about learning not to be cocky, which in that particular case, I can totally see Loki's hands being all over that. As much as I hate to say it. But again, Loki or not, they were tempting fate. They were trying to stop the prophecy, and they were trying to stop death from happening. Which is something we know we naturally cannot do. So there are lessons to be learned in that. We can't keep tempting fate. We don't put ourselves in potentially dangerous situations because we just think it's going to be alright. Anything can happen. Nothing, technically nothing's etched in stone, but one thing's for certain, we're all going to die someday. That is not avoidable, no matter what we do. So, that's one lesson. Now, along with that, one of the debates that goes along with this story is who was the old lady, crone, hag, whatever you call her. Who was she that would not cry? For some reason, no one can accept that maybe this person just genuinely, exactly like she said, didn't care either way. Because she didn't know him that way. He didn't do anything good for her. He didn't hurt her. She just... For some reason, no one, then in the stories or now, can accept the fact that maybe there's someone that just literally didn't care because it did not affect them. Which is odd, because even now there are people who act that way. Who literally, like, it doesn't affect me, so I can't make a decision. Okay. Now, that is possible. That it was just somebody. Another possibility, a lot of people, and because it is mentioned in the lore, so that was Loki in disguise. Now, again, I try to stop saying, we don't need to say the lore tells us it was Loki. It once again says they assumed it was Loki. It always says the word assumed. They assumed that or guessed that it must have been. It does not actually say, yes, it was in fact him in disguise. Even if it was, again, it had to happen. So, if it were Loki, one, Hela is his daughter, and he knew she would keep Baldur safe until the time that he was supposed to come back after Ragnarok. Makes sense that he would help that be fulfilled. Not because he wants Baldur dead, but because he knows someone has to be here. He has got to be here after Ragnarok to start it back up. So that's one idea. But another thought that I had here recently, and especially even while rereading it and preparing for this video, is one thing I've always said: if it was someone in disguise, it would not have kept him from coming back. Because one, Hela is not stupid. Okay? If this was the last person they had to ask, okay, that would mean that literally everyone else had cried, including Loki or whoever. All of those people, that would mean if it was just a disguise, then the person they're talking to, the hag, was not actually the last person. If it was just a disguise and they had already seen literally everyone but that person crying, then the accomplishment and the task would have been fulfilled once the person before they got to her cried. Because again, she's not stupid. Had it been a disguise, that would mean whoever that person was in disguise had already cried. Because that's the only person they hadn't seen cry yet. So it messed up that whole thing. Again, who knows, but that's just my personal thought. Having said that, what if this person, whether you want to say it's a disguise or not, what if this was someone who also knew that you had to let this happen? What if it was, let's say, one of the Norns who gives men their fate? And they're proving the point of, I am sorry, you can't cheat death. Another one, what if it was Hela herself? Because she also knew this had to happen. And you can't cheat death. Not even the gods. So those are just my thoughts on what it could be. But then I started thinking about the fact that they referred to her as an old woman, an old hag. Now, being in the cave, and I do believe at least one version mentions wolves being around her. Could be Angerboda, or one of the troll wives, as they say, one of the witches of the Iron Wood. I can see how they would not be concerned over Baldur passing. That's a possibility. But then I also look at the story of Utgard Loki. When Thor and Loki and the others, they go, and in the challenge where he's wrestling the old woman and he cannot take her down, she wins the fight. She takes him down, and at the end, Utgard Loki tells him he could not win that fight because that old woman was old age and, of course, eventually death. Thinking at that age takes us down eventually, no matter who we are, how strong we are. It happens to all of us. We cannot stop it. Which made me think, if the old age and death combo is a factor, like it could very well have been there, what if that was the old hag that refused to cry? Because she is age and death that takes down every man, that cannot be defeated, cannot be cheated. That's another personal, again, UPG here, just some ideas. Either way, the bottom line is, they were trying to change fate. They were trying to stop death. They were trying to stop what was supposed to happen. Now, Odin knew already, they already knew that Baldur was supposed to come out after Ragnarok to restart. So again, we have, as has happened many times, Fenrir being chained up And Hela even being in charge of Helheim, Jormungandr tossed into the sea, Loki being bound. We've seen over and over again what happens in Greek mythology of like self-fulfilled prophecy. You try to stop the thing from happening and inadvertently make it happen. And Odin has done that multiple times throughout the lore. So this could be just another case of trying to stop fate and end up making it happen. Now, that also will be another topic some other day about the difference between self-fulfilled and can it be stopped at all. Another time. But the point being, they were trying to stop what had to happen. And they didn't win. Technically, they did win, though, because now that Baldur is dead and in Helheim, there is someone to come back and start everything over again after Ragnarok, which would not have happened if he had not died, because he would have then died in Ragnarok and would not be there afterwards. Well, we can take that. So potential lessons is not stopping fate, not trying to stop fate to the point that you cause the bad thing to happen, not getting cocky. There's a big difference between confidence and cockiness. Confidence will help you win a battle. Being cocky will help you lose by making you mess up. Like they did when they decided to make a game of tempting fate and throwing weapons and sticks at the one who could not die. And then again, as we've seen with the solstice, which most early religions and belief systems did have some cycle and nature involved. Baldur dies. He comes back after everything's dead and helps it restart, as in the winter. So we have the cycles. So either way you take it, there are multiple lessons that could be learned. I personally like the cycle and restart. That is, again, a theme that is everywhere, all over the ancient world, and technically even in the Bible. That's an ongoing theme, because nature cycles, and so do we, and therefore so do the gods, and vice versa. You know, we forget sometimes, even if you do believe there's some literal meaning to mythology of whatever your path may be, we forget that there is a lot of allegory involved. So look for the meanings, and in this particular case, that is how I'm personally viewing it. Stop tempting fate, stop getting cocky, and know that the cycles will always continue no matter what we do. Things will die and restart, which we all do in one way or another. So that's it for tonight. Again, these are just my personal theories. If you have other theories, great. I'd like to actually hear them. You can contact me if you like. If you need someone to reach out to for clergy as a pagan, spiritual needs, whatever, again, feel free, reach out. I am here. So, that's all for tonight. Hope you all have a wonderful night, a happy holiday season in whatever way that you celebrate. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.